Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm doing something completely different and out of my comfort zone, which is building a diorama. Now, a lot of the things out on the internet now, and this is the hype, is building dioramas for their miniatures, for display pieces, for the terrain, anything you want to do. And a lot of people build it out of foam, out of recycled products, dollar store stuff. But I built this diorama, and it was for a diorama contest at my local gaming store, which is actually also my sponsor. But that had nothing to do with it because everyone in the store was able to vote. So the store had nothing to do with the winner. It was the people that were there. And I won for most original. So anyone out there can build a diorama if you put your mind to it. So I'm going to show you guys from pretty much A to Z, but not every single detail, a little bit, how I built this prize-winning diorama. Alright, so first things first, I went to my local hardware store, picked up some XPS foam, you know, the one with the big Pink Panther on it, very thick stuff, and just chopped off a big chunk of it to see, and I didn't even measure it, I just said I'm going to use about this size for my diorama. And as you saw at the beginning there, what I did is I put the Obsidat Ghost Council. That's a Nolzur's miniature that I painted a long time ago on the channel. And you know what? I'll put that link up now. And I put that in the middle of the board, and then using one of those, I don't even know what you call those things, but to measure out. And I kept trying to figure out, oh, how am I going to make this look like the lines? And I kept trying to do it with the pencil, but I was like, nope, I got to take a ruler and mark this all out. And as you can see, I went around the whole board with it and just tried to mimic that whole look of it, that it was coming out, continuing that path. And I made it a little bit deeper, so I went around with the pencil here and all the cracks with it, pressed a little bit harder. And what's great about this XPS foam is that it really takes to texture, so you can drop something on it pretty heavy, or you can just roll like anything on it and it'll do a really good job. And then I started measuring up approximately where I was going to put the columns that were going to be going around this guy, and I wanted to follow approximately where they were looking at. So I was looking at, okay, let's put one column in front of this ghost, in front of that ghost. So I was marking it out, but I ended up not going necessarily exactly where it was, but it's not a big deal. I mean, if the X's are there, they're going to be covered up with texture and with the columns anyways later on. And this is where I'm drawing out, okay, so this is what I want the top part of the island or of the council to look like. So I start chiseling that out. I take my big X-Acto knife here, or whatever this is, a cutting knife, and try and I was like, okay, how do I remove all of this stuff here? So I started seeing people doing it on YouTube where, okay, you just mark it as much as you can and you just start ripping it apart with your fingers. But I didn't realize the whole time I actually had the chiseling tools I could have used to just pop this out. So it's pretty much going to be following my fingers, using, like, it's going to look like you can tell like the fingers are just ripping this out of there. And as I went along, I was like, okay, yeah, if I put more slits, more cuts down there, it'll be easier to take off. So this took quite a while to do, by the way, and I'm skipping parts, I'm cutting off the video, plus I sped this up 4 times, so you're not sitting here watching this for an hour building this. This is going to be a 15-minute video, but it took many hours, plus I didn't film everything, I just showed you like the parts I was doing. And again, I never really built dioramas. Now I have built some dungeon pieces, which from the gamemaster kit from Army Painter. I built some you know, D&D stuff and all that, but not really a diorama showcasing a miniature. And the Obsidat Ghost Council was really something I really wanted to use for this. Now I'm using my big hot wire cutter board here to just go around in a random pattern, cutting off what I didn't really want to keep, because I didn't want a super, you know, perfect square or anything like that. And then I'm using the Army Painter's little hot wire cutter here just to go around and do some grooves and make it look like a rocky hill or a rocky side here. And again, when I look back on it, I always say, okay, what could I have improved in this? And this is what's great when you're building dioramas, because like you'll build, this is my first one that I really built to do something like this, and I just wanted to see what I could build out of it. So now I'm actually measuring up the columns Now I've seen some people like I was like, okay, square columns, pretty cool. And when I glued them to the board, or not glued them, but when I placed them on the board, I didn't really like how they turned out. They were too square for me. So I have this part on this thing that you can do circular cuts, but because I don't have a high edge on it, and you can see here I was off on, well, actually my son was helping me at this point. We were a little bit off with the measurements, and he was having fun. He was like, okay, how about we make some bricks and stuff that we can maybe use on it? And I was like, oh, I don't really need that. Then I wanted to try some texture, so I used one of these rolling pins, and you really got to press hard. Now I said these foam things do take a lot of the texture, and it takes it. But again, in the end, I ended up just doing all these weird circular cuts. They ended up really ugly-ish, but you know what? They kind of worked for what I was going for, like really decrepit council here. So as you can see, I rolled up a ball of foil, and here I just broke off a piece, and it really looks like it broke off. And look at the foil. I'm going around, and it just takes on all that texture. It's really awesome how this foam, I'm not saying anything bad about the XPS foam from the Army Painter, but it doesn't take texture as well as this one. So here I'm placing the columns, trying to see where they were going to go. And on the main column, I'm doing these random runes. Like, I'm not even following any design pattern. I just said, oh, you know what, this looks cool. And then I actually heard someone say there's a better way of doing it so it doesn't chip, because the crayon chips it. So there's another way, and I can't remember what it was, but anyway, so some hot glue here, really sticking it on. Hot glue I find is the best for XPS foam, not PVA glue. PVA glue is okay, but if you drop it by accident, you could break it. Whereas this, if you put it on as hot as you can and get it stuck to that XPS foam, you're gonna get something that sticks a lot more durably, geez, a lot harder. So like you can see, I'm using some scenery rocks here from the dollar store, sticking them on in the background here, making it like almost like a little altar. Now I wasn't allowed to use any 3D print material, so like I would have put little candles there if I could have found some, but I could have maybe made some out of foam, like little, I don't know, but I was like, you know, anyways. So now what I'm doing now is just covering up the bases of all those columns. I'm putting some PVA glue here. This works great, by the way, for the rocks, sand, and stuff like that. This is a mixture of actually gamemaster terrain rocks and some Diorama rocks. Like there's sand or bigger rocks or some that look like little crystals. And this is perfect for just that texture around all those columns here, and it hides the seams so you don't see them anymore. It just really does a good job you know, covering. And that was your point. Like, I mean, I could have done this also on the bottom layer, but I do something different with that. And I could have also done different things here. You know, you can always, like, you could put glue all over this base here and stick these rocks and really make it a rocky terrain. But because I put the texture in the foam already, I was like, you know, not necessary. And look at, I put the Ghost Council back just to see what it would look like so far. And now I'm using some of the AK Diorama stuff. This is light terrain, and just mushing it on. It's like peanut butter. You just put it on there, you leave a bit of texture to it. I'm just placing it randomly along the edges here, different areas. Again, you could stick some rocks on here. This works like PVA glue, by the way. If you put some rocks or some scattered terrain and stuff like that, it'll stick to it, and once it dries, it really sticks to it. So I could have put that instead of PVA glue around all the columns. Plus I would have made an even bigger seam, like clean up the seams even better. But as you can see, I'm just leaving some texture there, some height to it, and letting it dry. So here you go. I forgot to record priming this, so I used the Ruins and Cliffs primer spray, which is safe for all XPS foam. This is from the gamemaster line of Army painters. So if you haven't used this, it is amazing, and it dries super quickly. Doing a little dry brush of a light gray. I think this is Stone Golem. I saw it pass by very quickly. And I'm gonna try and hit, it's like a heavy dry brush, so don't be skimpy on it. Put it everywhere on the miniature. I didn't really go on the edge too much because I wanted to do more of a different thing on the sides, but I don't know. Anyways, you'll see later on when I do that part. But as you can see now, it's getting all that texture, it's getting all those rocks. I don't do too much to columns. I do a little bit because I'm going to be covering them up with a lot of moss later on, and I didn't find it was necessarily. They already had quite a bit of texture. I went a little bit on it with the heavy brush, but I go a lot more later on with the lighter color. And now this is Castle Gray, I just saw, or was that Field Gray? I don't even know. I saw it went by too fast. Anyways, just a lighter gray. You put this again, another big dry brushing here, but you can see I put it on a little thick at some spots. And as you're putting it on, you're covering up, you're trying to get just the details of the stuff. You see the rocks are getting a lot of details, they're really popping on there. And that's the point. When you're building these dioramas, you want to try and you want to take your time, but you want to have details. But dry brushing is what really makes the details pop in all of this. Like, this is where you get your details. And the last one is a very, very lighter beige almost color. I think this is skeleton bone, if I'm not mistaken, actually, or corpse pale, something like that. But then I'm just hitting the bigger rocks, like the bigger sections, not getting too much on the ground area, just where there's a lot more texture. And you can see it really gives that nice definition of the ground, really mixing it lighter as if there was light there. And I'm using some dark tone now. I'm gonna go around and just putting it on all these areas that have like really high definition areas, and it'll darken it down a bit, but it'll also brighten the highlight effects, which is just super cool. And I'm putting some wash on the top there so you can really see the broken pillar part. I'm just going around with all this dark tone wash. You can use Nuln Oil if you want. You could even use like a strong tone which has a bit of a brown to it to give it an earthy feeling, but I really wanted like a ghostly feeling, like just dark and grimy, right? This is what I really wanted from this Ghost Council thing. I really brought to life what my imagination was. Now I'm using what is called Demon Soil, I think. I don't know. This is also from AK Interactives, and this is from their, what is it called? War game terrain or something like that. It's like they're little smaller bottles, all sorts of different cool colors. This has like a ghouly gray to it, but I really change it later on. This is just to make like all the areas around as if like there's something spooky happening on all these like pieces of rock here around the Ghost Council itself. And so now I'm at my airbrush part, and I wanted this part to glow, so I'm going with a nice white on there. Oh yeah, here we go. Uniform, what is that? Unforgiven green. I'm using that on all the side edge to give it a green hint, and I'm going to be using that color triad from the Army Painter. And here we go, Exile green now. Just going on top, even lighter there. And then some Gauss green, I believe. And this is to make that pillar really glow. And the effect that it gave, someone actually thought I had it backlit. And now I'm using a blue, I don't remember what it was called, but I'm using that all around the Ghost Council where they're going to be. So I'm spraying that, not too heavily, just nice and light to give it a nice ghoulish effect, making it look like they're radiating this color. And now I'm trying this new still water stuff from AK Interactive as well. And after when I look at it, so this, I drop this everywhere, and it's cool because it's self-leveling. So if there's any nooks and crannies, it's going to get in there and make it a nice soft water look. What I should have done is actually made the glow effect underneath the water. I should have airbrushed some white where I was going to put the water, and then put like a yellow or a green glow out of it, and then put the still water. Anyways, but now what I'm doing here, just using some flock here, putting some glue all around PVA, just shoving that on there, giving some grass texture. And now what I'm doing is I'm mixing up some PVA glue with some diorama moss texture. And this is better than just dumping it on the glue on the board itself or on your diorama. It really just makes it like a paste, and then you can take this, put it where you want it. I'm putting it around some of the columns, just to make like as if there was moss growing there, because I'm going to make moss grow up on the top of the columns. And when it dries, you're going to have that darkish bright green color. And here I'm using that summer undergrowth. This is that stuff from Army Painter. It looks like moss, it looks like a whole bunch of vines. And I will put some more on all the columns. I forgot to record that part, but I will go up. But the PVA glue wasn't holding it very well. You can see I'm really having a hard time with it right here, and my fingers are getting full of it. So I had to put a hot glue gun actually, and just pouring it on really hot on those columns, and then sticking that on there. Now I'm using tufts, all sorts of different kinds of tufts from Army Painter, from Gamer Grass, from, I think I have some AK Interactive stuff in there. I don't even know, I might have some Vallejo. I don't even know what I have as tufts. I have so many different ones. And so I'm just going around sticking these ones in. These are really tall ones. I'm going with different colored ones, different variations here. So I'm using those tall ones again here. But then I was like, oh, they're the same color as that grass I put in there. So I'm gonna have to maybe change that up a bit. So this one I really fluff it up, make it really sprout. Now I'm gonna use like these big Highland tufts that almost look like just almost like sea urchin style. Putting that everywhere as well, just to try and cover up some of the mistakes or some of the rocks that came off during the dry brushing. Put some here in that little hole just to hide up that hole a bit more, make it like as if grass was growing out of there. putting bigger tufts. Again, here's another one of those big patchy ones. I'm putting it close to that one as if like this area was this kind of grass. Here we're going with a I think that's gamer's grass, and it's like a winterland one, or not even, I don't remember. It's like a blue with a light blue on top. I just wanted something different everywhere, just to give it a little bit more different. Again, different tufts, different areas. It really just brings the diorama to life, and you get like the different. Now if I had a static flock applicator, I could have made all that flock grass stick up, and those things are so cool. If you haven't seen one of those, take a look for them. I'm looking forward to maybe getting one day. Yeah, so now I'm using some of the battlefield rocks, just at certain areas here, make it a little bit more stony on the side there. I could have put some of those before I did all the priming and all that, but I found that these rocks here were gonna actually do a good effect, and just finish off that side pretty well. Anyways, again, dioramas are just about your imagination. There you go, the Ghost Council, I'm sticking it in there. You can do whatever you want with dioramas. This can be used in a D&D campaign. It could be used for scatter terrain, or for terrain for a wargaming table. You could rip out the Ghost Council. I don't know if my glue would come off or not, or rip off the whole thing, but here you can see all the vines coming up the sides here that I put on a while ago. Anyway, so this is the end. You got those ghosts I painted. Like I said, the link will pop up at the end of the video, as well as during the video. You can go see how I painted these ghosts. They were fun. They were one of my first clear plastics. And there you go. I won my trophy for most original. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this diorama building. And if you do, hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And we'll see you all in the next one.